Deuteronomy 31:6 declares, God will never leave us, nor shall he forsake us. God declares that we must trust in him and not in they. Deuteronomy 31:6 declares, he will never leave us, nor shall he forsake us. God is always with us, no matter what we endure. I'm here to remind you, not to convince you. This is simply a reminder that God is always with you. He's always with you and I, no matter what we endure. We must trust in God and not in they. This is a reminder, and this is a known fact, that God will never leave us. Never. I don't care what it looks like right now. God has not left you. For his word declares that he will never leave us, nor shall he forsake us. God says, stop listening to they. Because you and God are the majority. You and God are enough. They don't matter. Don't listen. They, the spectators, the doubters, the downers, the naysayers. God says simply trust in him, the author and the finisher, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. For God declares that he's always with us and he'll be with us until the end. We must stop listening to those who speak negativity into our future, into God's great plans for our lives. Those who try to convince us that we will never succeed at God's great purpose. Those gifts that he's given to you and I. We must stop trusting in they and start trusting in our Heavenly Father, the one who knows the very numbers of hairs that is on your head. God declares that even though we all struggle, we all go through difficult and unusual circumstances, his word declares that he's always with us. For he will never leave us, nor shall he forsake us. God is always with us. Remember the story of David and Saul. When David declared to Saul, he said, let me fight for you. Let your servant fight for you. And Saul says, how can you fight for me? You're merely a boy. You're small in stature and you don't have the power. You're not a fighter. You don't have the ability to go up against a strong army, a nation. He declared that David was weak. He didn't have the ability to fight. But David said, let me, your servant, fight for you. Because David declared, I have been fighting. I've been fighting bears and lions because God was with me. I've been watching over your sheep. And while I was doing all of that, I had to fight against bears and lions. And God was with me then. And I'm pretty sure that God will be with me yet again. Saul says, okay, well, if you feel that you can fight, go ahead. God be with you. David says, I will fight, but I'm not going to fight alone because my Heavenly Father walks and talks with me. He's had my back before, my God, and he'll have it yet again. I can imagine Saul believing that, okay, this young kid think he's going to be able to fight against the Philistines. How is he going to win a battle? He don't even know what it's all about. But just as David said, God has been with me before because he knew him and God are the majority. Him and God are enough. He doesn't need anything else because he trusts and believes in his heavenly Father. He knows who walks with him, who talks to him, who has his back. He already knows that God is always with him and he will never leave nor forsake him. And we must be just as David. We all face huge battles. We all have obstacles, troubles and trials, difficult circumstances, unusual at times. But we must trust in God enough to believe that even though we have to endure hardship, that God will never leave us. That's his promise. Nor shall he forsake us. We must only trust that we and God are the majority. You and God are enough. Any situation that you're faced with, God promised to always be with you forever, even until the end. But only if your faith allows you to believe that your heavenly Father will see you through whatever you face. God declares that he's always with us, always. So David went up against the Philistines. He went up against a huge army. He went up against powerful people. But in the end, David won the battle because he knew who was with him. He trusted and believed in the God that declares that he's always with him. That means even when we go up against difficult, very difficult giants in our lives, God is always with us. And David stood and he trusted God, even though it seemed he wouldn't be able to win the war, the battle. He trusted God enough to believe that if God made him a promise, that God is indeed a promise keeper. And we must be as David. We must trust God totally and lean not to all of our difficult and unusual circumstances. Lean not to what we see in front of us, all of the challenges, the obstacles, the many unusual situations that we face. For God declares that you and him are enough. You and him are the majority. I'm not here to convince you, but I'm only here to remind you. They don't matter. You and God is all that you need. I just want to encourage you to trust God and don't lean to they, the spectators, the naysayers, the doubters, the downers, but believe in your heavenly Father. Believe that you and God are the majority. You and God are enough. You and God is all that you need. I am Rochelle. This is Inspirational Cafe. Until next time, be blessed.